On December 31st, 1600, the East India Company was formed. And without a doubt, it is the most powerful multinational company that this world has ever seen. And I know what you're thinking, have I clicked on the wrong video? No, this is still about Sleep Token. But the reason behind the choices of these songs in the second EP to Calcutta, Nazareth, and Jericho are incredibly important. And as we know, nothing is not done by design by Sleep Token. So why Calcutta? To explain that, we rather need some historical context. So let's go back to December 31st, 1600, where James Lancaster and a bunch of his mates petitioned Queen Elizabeth I and said, "Hey, Betty, we'd like to take a bunch of ships and go to the Indies because there's a load of shit there that we really want and we think we'd be able to sell to people in the UK. Stuff like tea, stuff like herbs, so like textiles." India was producing a huge amount of textiles to be exported around the world. I believe in the 1700s, 25% of all textiles in the world were being exported from India. The East India Company was one of the first joint stock companies in the world. That meant that they didn't have the finances necessarily themselves to go all around the world and to bring back all of this stuff. But if you invested in us, i.e. the people from the City of London invest in us, we go across here and you get a huge recoup on your original investment. That's kind of how corporations have been run ever since the 1700s. And so off the British went on their merry way, and they went to the East Coast and they delivered trade relationships, let's call them, with Madras. And then they were gifted Bombay on the West Coast by the Netherlands as part of a deal in royal marriage, as happened so often those days. The British began international trade, but as the East India Company grew larger, so did its own private army. 3 of them, in fact, totaling 260,000 men. And at one point, these private armies were twice the size of the British Army. This was one of the most powerful companies in history. And obviously at this time, with the French and then the Portuguese and many other countries trying to flex their muscles in the world of international trade, there were problems, there were fights on international soil, which is what brings us to Calcutta. See, the British were keen to protect their assets in Calcutta, but down the east coast, the French were building fortifications. They indeed were trying to protect their own assets, and the British didn't like that. But I tell you who didn't like it more, and that was the Nawab of Bengal, who said to both the French and the English, "Oi, if you're going to be on our turf, you need to play nice. So stop developing these forts and just do your work." And the French said, "Fair enough." And then the British looked at the Bengalis and looked at the French just below them and went, "We don't trust that lot, so you can go fuck yourself." Ooh, and the Nawab didn't like that, and understandably so. So on June the 20th, 1756, he put together an army of 50,000 men, 50 cannons, and 500 war elephants. That's right, war elephants. And they marched to Fort William in Calcutta, where most of the people went, this isn't for us, we're going to disappear. But 146 people were captured, and they were thrown into what is now known the world round as a colloquial phrase, the Black Hole of Calcutta. Now, we can only rely on the accounts of people who survived the Black Hole of Calcutta, and one of them being John Zephaniah Howell, who rather paints himself out to be a bit of a hero in this. But there was nothing heroic about what happened that day. 146 British were stripped of all their clothes and thrown into this cell, which was designed for petty criminals, meaning that it was 14 foot by 18 foot. That's 4.3 meters by 5.5 for those doing metric. There were 2 windows in this cell, but they were high up and they were barred, which meant that there was a real severe lack of airflow. Also, coupled that with that the normal temperature in Calcutta at this time of year is 30 degrees with all of the fires raging outside. It was probably nearer 40 degrees, and then there was the smoke coming through the windows. There was the panic, and there was the fact that if you break down the mass of this, it meant that every single person in there had about 2 square foot of space. So obviously, panic, fear, chaos, death ensued. The first death happened at 9 p.m. And even though water was passed through to some of the prisoners, in the chaos, most of it was dropped. So 12 hours passed, and of the 146 who went in to the black hole of Calcutta, only 23 came out to tell the tale. At 85% humidity in those conditions, I'm surprised 23 made it out of there, frankly. The only way that some of them survived with the lack of water was licking sweat off themselves, or licking sweat off each other. But the interesting thing about tragedy is that it can always be spun to political gain. And back in Britain, safe to say, people were fairly pissed off at what had happened in Calcutta. And so, in 1757, another Clive got involved. We can't get moved for fucking Clives. Robert Clive led an army that, though reduced in numbers compared to the native Bengalis, were far more trained, were far more well-drilled. And at the Battle of Plassey in 1757, it was a turning point for India, even to this day. In the Battle of Plassey, Clive managed to win and therefore take control over a large and very important area of India. And this is rather where, in the 1800s, the British took control of India. And when I say took control, I mean bled it dry. Although there are other extenuating circumstances, in 1770, famine killed 10 million Indians. The lack of care, the lack of governance, the lack of any interest in preserving the country of India, apart from to strip it of its spare parts and ship everything back to the UK. I'm being somewhat facetious when I say strip it of its spare parts. What I mean is strip it of all of its wealth. Before the East India Company were involved in India, India was responsible for 27% of the world's trade. But because of the sanctions, because of the empirical nature of the way Britain just came in and took over, and therefore imposed its own sanctions, it told India how to function. The East India Company became the de facto state leaders of Bengal. And although in 1858 the British government acknowledged that the East India Company had lost control of what they were originally out there to do, and in becoming nationalised eventually became absorbed into the British crown, the damage was done. Economists argue about this number exactly, but it's somewhere in the region of 43 trillion. $43 trillion were rinsed from India and put into the British economy. And at this point, I presume that what you're thinking is, okay, well, what the fuck has this got to do with Sleep Token? Well, India was viewed as an extractive colony, which means that it was only there as a vessel for the British to get what they wanted. And in many ways, I view this as the same story that we are learning in the lore of Sleep Token at this point. There was a reason why Calcutta was chosen as the title of this song. India was a vessel. It was to be emptied. And many vessels have come before it as well, as far as the British Empire is concerned. And I know you might be thinking, well, what the fuck, vessel doesn't care anything about... Well, but he does. He actually references it in his very first interview when he says that the UK is old, the UK has a lot of power, if only you knew how to use it. In Sleep Token, there are themes of Celtic mythology. There are huge narratives that have to do with different religious beliefs. And what we must remember is that in Calcutta, it was a hub for Hinduism. In Nazareth, a hub for Christianity. And in Jericho, a hub for Judaism and Islam. These are all cities that are rooted in religious belief and worshipping a deity. But alongside that, they also carry great tragedy with them as well. And in Calcutta, in this song, there is an overarching feeling that when you stand up for yourself, just like the Nawab did, just like the Bengalis did, where they said, no, that's enough. You've taken enough. The powers above them, those who they were subservient to, there were threats of violence. Violence will become even more apparent when we travel across to the Middle East to Nazareth. But here in Calcutta, it makes me think slightly of what Agent Smith says in The Matrix when he says that humankind is a virus.
Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague.
That we move in somewhere, we deplete it of all its assets and all of its resources, and then we move on to somewhere else. We find an extractive colony We take everything we want from it and then we leave it a husk. I think that is quite a powerful thing to think of, particularly when we're thinking of the relationship between Vessel and Sleep, and that Vessel in himself may represent Calcutta, the extractive colony, that when they try to stick up for themselves, when they try to go, no, actually, I'm going to stick you in a black hole for a while, I don't need this, that eventually there is no stopping the power of Sleep. So we have arrived here, 2017, the EP2, 1 year after EP1 by Sleep Token, and we've rather been introduced to the characters. We've been told about fields of elation that are quiet and loamy, where Vessel would like to build a relationship with this deity called Sleep. And then we've been told by Sleep that maybe I might have to break you. I hope you're ready for this. But Vessel is full of love, full of adoration, at least from the lore perspective at this point. We're going to get to the covers of the records in a moment, but just a reminder that I look at this normally from quite an analytical perspective. A bloke wrote this, mask, guitar, piano, pants. He wrote this about personal experiences. This isn't just a story about a vessel being in love or wanting to worship or spread the word of a deity called Sleep. These words, these songs, these intricacies, these melodies, they mean something to the man behind the mask. But it isn't just the man behind the mask on EP2. Oh no, we definitely have a very strong introduction now of Vessel 2, as he's listed in the writing credits on the drums. And the drums do rather come to life a little bit in this record. But it's going to get very dark. Now, the artwork for this whole EP, but in particularly this single Calcutta of that giant Hindu temple, is actually a design by Adam Hardy from Cardiff University. It's a 12th century Hindu temple design. Not only was it just designed by Adam, this was put into work in 2017. So this isn't an actual thing. So this is a temple of worship that we have on the front cover of EP2 and indeed the single Calcutta, which leads so much into what we've been talking about already in EP1. But just for a little bit of context, I actually find the cover of this quite comforting. I find the color scale quite comforting. I find the meticulous way that it's been designed by what looks like just pen and ink. But it is very much just from the album artwork and an offering of worship, that this is a temple of worship. What I have already achieved from Vessel's voice, so to speak, what I've already talked about in the first EP, now I am building a place where I will worship my deity. But she, or he, depending on which way you want to interpret it, only comes to Vessel in the night. And that is where this song seems to exist, at least musically and sonically. It seems to exist in the gap between where we move into our unconscious and the melodies and what have you. We will go into that in a moment. Now, this has a music video as well, so there's plenty to talk about with the imagery on that too. So enough waffle. There's loads of context for where we are when we arrive in Calcutta. So let's do it. From EP2 in 2017, this is Sleep Token, Calcutta. Black Feathers from The Off here. 8 years ago, by the way, at this point.
I am caught, tangled in, wrapped in quartered, chipping now and over time, lived again for just a moment, missing pieces find me. I swear that I ache for your eyes and the way you breathe.
Before we move too much into the chorus. Alrighty, we got some things to talk about. The feathers as well, black feathers straight away. So Jerry, our universally loved black flamingo from Even in Arcadia. There are black feathers already introduced at this point. So we can't ever discount as to whether or not this entire, as you know, the musical theatre production that is Sleep Token, this is by design. This is by design. It's been by design all along. So let's talk about Vessel's speech impediment. Now, I know you're going to be like, what? That's a disgraceful thing to say. How dare you say that? I mean, it is my job. And also, for what it's worth, I have a very similar speech impediment. What I have is a sibilant S. I've fought against this my entire career, a splashy S. I don't have the same thing that Vessel does. I must be clear, though, because... So I'm going to show you this on mute, just so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. When I say a speech impediment, it doesn't necessarily mean it's anything huge, but one can have splashy T's, splashy S's. But I would like you to just take a little look at Vessel's mouth and his tongue placement, because you can see, even just there, where the tongue is placed in the mouth. When he speaks, his tongue is really quite forward against... You can see it just there. It's almost against the front teeth. Now, a lot of people call that a lisp. Some people call it splashy S, sibilant S. I have a sibilant S. I have to do something called, and you'll like this, wolf jaw, which means that I bring my jaw further forward when I have to bring my teeth together to create T's and S's. Now, if I'm lazy, my S's will come out as S's, and it'll be a bit splashy. But I had to make my tongue do that there. I can't naturally just create a splashy S now, because I've become so ingrained in not having one as a voice, as a professional voice user, as a voice teacher. But one of the things that I noticed straight away on this video was that tongue is really far forward, and then you hear it in certain pronunciations.
Sing pieces for me. I swear I ain't for your eyes and the way.
Your eyes and the way it's there. So, if you watched my video on the birth of the mask on Fields of Elation, I was interested as to why the cleft lip was there. That really, I know it's a design of the mask, but I've worked with people who've had voice therapy, or have come to me for voice therapy after they've had operations to correct those things as well. So I've always been fascinated. Was that a little nod? Was there a nod in that lip being slightly upturned in Vessel's first mask? Was it a nod to the speech impediment even? Also, you will hear, for those of you who are new to Sleep Token, whatever, maybe just hearing this, his diction, and I don't know if he's got a new voice tutor or whatever. One would imagine so, that somebody who takes such care in music like Vessel does, that they would want to give the best possible performance, and working with a vocal coach, a voice coach, performance coach, whatever, will help that. But there is very much a splashy T, a splashy F. Also, doesn't he just have the mouth of the wolf and the eyes of the lamb in this video? See how far forward the tongue is now? I've got the same little things here. When you actually see them, well, look down there just to check where it was. Yeah, those wolf teeth. So let's take a look at these lyrics, and also let's talk about briefly how he constructs them, because There's a lot of run-on lines here. I'm fascinated by how Vessel presents the lyrics, how he creates the syntax, the lyrical melodic structure, aren't always as it's written. So, for example, I'm caught, tangled in what? So he's aware. I'm caught. That's it. I'm in something now. I'm here, tangled in, wrapped and quartered. Now, I'm a big Henry VIII nut, right? Tudor stuff. Love that. Wrapped and quartered. When you were hung, So for those of you who maybe don't know the term, content warning, I'm about to talk about something which is about being diced up. So look away now. I don't know why I said look away. Listen away now. Fuck it. Whatever. Just skip ahead a minute. Whenever I hear that phrase, I think about the fact that when you were hung, drawn, and quartered, so you're hung until you were dead, you were disemboweled, that is the drawn, and then you were quartered, you were cut into 4 pieces. But so often in British history, those 4 pieces are sent to different parts of the country, even in some cases sent to different parts of the world. Hung, drawn, and quartered, like he has already accepted his fate, that he is guilty. And so often in those trials, as we know from witch trials in the past, they're impossible to beat. Just like when the British came to Calcutta, impossible to beat. So I am caught, tangled in, wrapped and quartered, tripping up and over. And this beautiful lyric, time lived again, just for a moment. Missing pieces find me. Not missing limbs, as we'll obviously get to, but they find me. Just like in Fields of Elation, where all of the bits were moving round, and then through those fields, everything was running, and eventually it formed the mask in the middle of the screen. Time lived again. A dream, something that I wish to repeat, something that I want to do, an offering, a repetition, a prayer, lived again. A memory of something that happened. I want to bring that with me. I want to live that again. But the only place I imagine that Vessel can do this is in sleep. But it's time lived again for just a moment. It's fleeting. It's potentially false, because it's time lived again. One can't live time again. You know that shit phrase, what is it? It's called the present because it's a gift. But yeah, you can't live time again. That is a paradox, because the time that you've had is done. You will never get that. Every second I'm talking to this camera, I'm getting older, I will never get back these moments. So to live them again is a fallacy. But then I sweat. Possibly Black Hole of Calcutta. Also, sweat turns to blood, Gethsemane. And I ache for your eyes and the way you breathe. Now, I don't think that we really notice how people breathe unless it's in sleep. There is a sense of adoration. If I wake up before Lauren and I look over and I see her asleep breathing deeply, that brings me joy, because I know she's in comfort, right? So I sweat and I ache for your eyes and the way you breathe. Your eyes when you look at me, when you acknowledge me, which has been a thing that Vessel hasn't been great about, and indeed has mentioned a lot in these lyrics, is the acknowledgement. And if we remember correctly, at the last song of EP1, it was Sleep saying to Vessel, acknowledge me. Just acknowledge me. Don't lie to me. If you acknowledge me and you keep... We're back to fucking... It's the same as the fucking British. If you want to use an example, if anybody's seen the musical Hamilton, you know exactly which song I'm talking about when I say, you'll be back. It's that same fucking vibe. You acknowledge me and I'll look after you. Exalt me and I shall keep you safe. What the fuck does David Bowie say in Labyrinth?
Just fear me, love me, do as I say, and I will be your slave.
and I will be your slave. I will be your slave. Are you fucking kidding me? I ache for your eyes and the way you breathe. Right. For those of you who have come across videos on TikTok or whatever of women saying, this is why Vessel. This is why Vessel is the one. Bring back yearning. Yearning. You want to know how to fucking yearn? Lyrics like this. This is yearning. It's the ache. It's not. It is a. It's a really deep feeling that some of these lyrics invoke. It's not just, hey, I think you're sexy, so give me your number. Like, who the fuck cares? No, most fucking pop songs nowadays just sound like they were written by AI. Cool, whatever. You can't. This is yearning. This is you are everything. I ache for you, and I wake. Say your name. Fuck me. Because that's what happens. All of the music, I haven't even mentioned the music to this point, but even that progressive ding ding, it has a little rattle at the end of it. Actually, fuck it, I'll show you. That's what I'm meant to be doing, right? If you listen to this at the very beginning, listen to the little rattle. For those of you who play the drums, you'll know if you put like a bell, I'm thinking about like Christmas bells, I can't remember the name for them, on the snare, and when you hit it, it makes an additional noise. So this noise makes me think of trading. It makes me think about people in the streets, kind of, and I suppose maybe that goes to Calcutta a little bit. The idea that noise is. Don't get me wrong, it's not Monty Python, Bring Out Your Dead. Bring out your dead.
Bring out your dead. Here's one. Ninepence. I'm not dead. What? Nothing. Here's your ninepence.
But just like I'm trying to attract your attention a little bit. It's very organic.
I am caught, tangled in, wrapped and quartered, tripping now and over time.
From the way the lines run into each other.
Again, for just a moment, missing pieces find me. I swear
They're not in time as well. It's ever so slightly. This isn't perfect. Gosh, that's a high note. So, but the lyrical and musical quality here feels a little bit dreamlike, in my opinion. I wake and say your name, and there's like the as he's coming out of sleep, there's those harmony lines that take us up and ascend a little bit. There's not a huge amount of structure to this as a song yet. It feels we've got that white noise.
you are more than one belief, melting skywards, more than silence broken.
Establishment chord.
Again.
I'm whole again, and then we get establishment.
Just a moment till the morning
Okay, hang on a second, because this melody is important for creating the atmosphere. And but there's an octave below the and awake, and I even think there's a bass line going and awake. So we've got this big like collection of voices there, multifaceted noises. I talked about Medusa before, maybe when Sleep's speaking, but this feels like prayer. It feels like ritual, because when you've got basses and you have if you want to be like basses, baritones, tenors, and then you've got altos, mezzos, sopranos, you're building something that exists in a church that normally we associate choir with religious aspects, with offerings, with worship. Oh! I've not noticed that before. That's a little bit this place will come to a tune. That's not Vessel either, I don't think, putting the... There is another feathered host.
Oh, she said you'd better believe it. I said you don't know. Oh, you said you better believe it.
There's the apple again, the offering. So the masks are interesting here, because obviously we've moved on from this now, an evolution now in 2025, where we're now in I don't know, the grandiose Death Eater masks of the band. But at this point, it does look like they've got bags over their head and they've been sacrificed, and the mark of the sacrifice has led it to, I'm trying to use code here, has created blood in the shape of the markings, almost like it's run down into the shape of the Sleep Token logo, which I'm pretty sure is a spider, but that's a conversation for another time. Two very complimentary with the drumming here. I love this fucking band. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to. Right, so the Holy Festival. Apologies, I've pronounced that wrong. HOLI, the Festival of Color, where people throw paint at one another. Again, references to this immediately with those bursting of colors, those little pellets, going back to the Calcutta, to the source of the title of this song. But also, it makes me immediately think of I Was Your Robot Companion, You Were My Favorite Color, and also when we get to Infinite Baths, colors bursting when you laugh. This idea of colors bursting at moments of, well, if you like, of the sexual gratification, of emotional gratification, this idea that when we burst in colors. Half a bar drop. Down tune to fuck. Oh, let's stop there. What a powerful image that the lipstick over the top of the cellophane, that even though I am, if you like, the victim, the person that is being strangled, the person that knows that it's over for them, even though somebody is taking, you still want to look pleasing to them, that even something that's sucking the life out of you, like sleep, to a vessel. Oh, they're magnets. The snapping together. Yeah. Musically as well, can you hear the I think it's that note. Same as if you watched when the bow breaks, the C sharp there that was pulsed. There is a pulse of a note. Even in this, when we get to the breakdown, I believe the breakdown after this, there is one single note quite prominently pulsing, like a beacon in the dark. Become even more prominent in the second breakdown. I love little musical intricacies. Bursting colours. 7 years ago. 8 years ago.
Find me alive, whole again for just a
repetition,
moment.
always there.
Missing pieces find me time lived again for just a moment. Missing pieces find me
Spidery movements, so arachnid coded.
again.
Hi, Clive. There's a tattoo there. Oh, it's a female. Okay, before we go into this breakdown proper, because I'd like to analyze this, let's go back to these lyrics for a moment. Second verse. So, you are more than warm belief. You are more than warm belief. So, belief is something that is essential to our society. It is how we are controlled. It is also something that keeps us going. Without belief, everything ceases to exist. When I hold you, when I can feel the warmth of your body. So warm belief, something tangible, something physical. So you are more than just warm belief. When I hold you and I believe that we're together or that you love me, you're more than that. You've got to be. You're more than just a body in the passenger seat that I believe in, that I can touch, that is tangible. You've got to be more than just warm belief melting skywards. So as it goes up into the air, it disappears. If anybody has read the Teeth of God graphic novel, you will know a lot more about that melting skywards, the idea that everything goes up. The offerings always go up. More than silence broken. You are more than just that voice that comes to me in the night. You're more than just that voice that breaks the silence. You are. It's that belief. You are more than warm belief melting skywards, more than silence broken. And then in that moment where we get I'm whole again, we get the first establishment chords that kind of build towards the it's not a pop song by any stretch of the imagination, but kind of tangible support musically. I'm whole again for just a moment. Just like you said before, time lived again in the first verse. Time lived again for just a moment. I'm whole again for just a moment. Now, Jungian psychology, I believe that all of this is to do with shadow work. If you watch my other videos, you can find out more about it. I'll be talking about it through all of these videos. But that idea that I'm whole again in the night, where I'm able to accept my shadow, you, sleep, my shadow, my dark side, and me, the ego, my self, that we can come together and I can be my essential self in sleep. I can exist as a whole. I'm whole again. I've created with you, with the coming together of the light and the dark, we are whole again. But for just a moment, until the morning comes. Because when the morning comes, when he opens his eyes again, whether it be, again, man behind the mask, the booty call theory, the idea that somebody only uses him for certain things. Well, I know what you want from me. That kind of theory, which is more human, which is less related to the law, but this idea that this all-encompassing feeling, this deity that comes together with him and makes him whole, and then he wakes up, shit, gone again, because sleep only exists. Sleep, the deity, only exists in his dreams. I wake, say your name, rather like you're coming out of, as this music behind us is all very carefully culturing that it's a little bit dream state. It's not gone too regimented. There's not been a whole amount of, drum, guitar, bass, song. It's quite dreamy in its construction. And I wake, say your name. It's almost like the eyes haven't opened yet. And I wake, saying your name. The awareness that I've woken up again, saying your fucking name. It's got the tone rolled off like it's a phone conversation. That's quite interesting with the lyrics there. Hang on. So she said, "You'd better believe it." And I said, "Oh, you don't know." That's reciting a story to somebody else. That's a third party. That's a conversation that you're having. What if it's sleep? What if it's sleep saying, he said, "You better believe it"? Because we're going back to, well, let's go back a song. Let's go back to the last single from the one EP where Sleep says to Vessel, "Don't lie to me, don't lie to me. I'll know if you're lying to me, don't lie to me." I could just imagine Sleep on the phone to Olympus going, yeah, he said, "You better believe it." And I said, "Oh, you don't know." When somebody says, "Oh, you just wait to find out. Oh, you have no idea." That can be menacing. That there is, "Oh, what have you got me for my birthday?" No, you'll find out. That's nice. When somebody says, "What's the matter? Whoa, what's wrong?" It's all right. You'll find out. So something's being kept here, right? Something's being hidden. Oh, you've no idea. So I don't know if it's Vessel from Sleep or Sleep from Vessel, but it could be read either way. But again, it's that idea that Vessel is so enamored with Sleep. Sleep is everything. I'm going to give everything to you. But the awareness of the deity who's lived 1,000 lifetimes and has had numerous vessels before, if we're due to possibly believe that narrative, it'll become so much clearer after Nazareth. But the idea that you've no idea what I'm capable of. Bless you. Bless you for telling me that you've no idea what I'm going to do to you. I swear that's a beard.
for just a moment.
Just
Missing pieces find me
beautifully shot.
alive. Whole again for just a moment. Missing pieces.
How significant is the black in his
find
teeth
me
here?
time.
Is it the spread?
Again for just a moment. Missing pieces find me
Counter melody in the background. This is quite important. Before we get into the final breakdown, because we have that counter melody in the background saying, I sweat and I ache. It causes me to perspire how much I ache for it. Fuck, just wow. Time lived again for just a moment. Missing pieces find me, and I'm whole again. And this is what I really like. When you nod off, when you're going to sleep at night. There's this idea that the thoughts become smaller and smaller and smaller, and indeed when you're repeating yourself or you're fading into unconsciousness, you may often be saying something and it will become something thing. So with this we're getting missing pieces find me, and I'm whole again. That repetition, that ritual, that prayer as he's going into unconsciousness. Clever. Spilling out poison, corruption. It's by choice. That wailing in the background, slightly atonal. It's keeping us this air of ritual. This isn't fading out as such. It is having the tone turned off. It's being dulled. We're going to sleep. Everything is compressing. Oh, how interesting. It is. It sounds like we're being taken to sleep. Oh, and all four faces there. Didn't expect that. Wow. Well, as always, Sleep Token are constantly impressive. There are probably things I've missed. If you want to pop them in the comments, I try to be as exhaustive as I can. But as I always said, just my interpretation. This could be utter bollocks. Everything I've said for the last, however long this is going to be, it could be bollocks. Because it's just one person's interpretation. That's the beauty of Sleep Token. It's the beauty of art in general. That your free-range human, can come in and go, nah, don't think that. Good. I hope my interpretation sits beside yours. It doesn't have to be, it's not right. I'm not right. You're not right. And it's all right not to be right all the time. Yes. Yeah, my lovely free-range humans. You can, if you want to do a like and a subscribe and all of this, just do what the fuck you want. That's all I want. Do things that you that your authentic self would tell you to do. I have to obviously plug my Ko-fi. I don't always like to do this, but you need to see this fucking community. Holy shit. What we've started to build via the Ko-fi page with my community-led Discord, all of the names of my members are on screen now, and it's just so many members. The live streams now, the ones we do on Twitch and TikTok Live. If you want to follow me on Twitch, I do album watch throughs. We're talking about doing some live show watch throughs as well, and then I post them for VOD, but only for my members on Ko-fi, because I think that they deserve that, because these are the people who've truly supported me. YouTube's a bit fucked at the moment. People like myself, and gosh, I'm only a very, very small creator, but there is absolutely no way of doing all of this research, doing days of work. And in the moment I put up something copyrighted, it's done. So if you want to support me, if you like in any way, please go to my Ko-fi page if you want. But for your own tunes, do the fuck you want, man. Just enjoy this music in the same way that it's fucking changed my life. Like, I love this band. I think that they are one of the most intricate. I didn't really get to experience Tool in real time. Jeff Buckley, rather, I didn't have a chance. With a lot of artists who have shaped me and my career and how I think about music. So we've got a chance to live this in real time, to be able to come back only a few years and analyze these songs and then put them into perspective for where we are now. And I will bring up one thing before I go about this song. I would love you to all fast forward to Even in Arcadia Now, to the exact lyrics. Oh, and I used to know myself. Oh, and you used to know me so well. Oh, and I wish I could leave myself alone. Oh, and you wish that you could make me whole. Have we been doing this? Have we been doing this for 8 years? 9 years? Potentially more than this? Is every little bit of this story by design? Well, I'm starting to think that maybe it is. And next week, when I next see you, if you don't go to the live stream, of course, there's Twitch, there's Ko-fi, there's all that stuff. You're on YouTube, idiot. If you want to follow me, there's all that stuff. But yeah, these little links together, this story, this band, what a pleasure it is to be able to talk about it. And I shall see you. Ooh, fuck, Nazareth. That might be the biggest one yet. There's a lot of very dark stuff to talk about there. Okay, cool. Have a lovely week, folks, and I shall see you for the next one.